Founded in 1963 by New Zealand native Bruce McLaren, they had never really considered making a road car apart from the 1970 M6 GT that sadly was never actually produced following tragedy on June 2nd, 1970. At Goodwood Circuit, while testing the M8D prototype, Bruce McLaren was killed, dominating the Can-Am series with the M6A and M8A from 1967 to 1971, including Bruce McLaren himself winning two drivers' titles in 67 and 69. They began this winning tradition in F1 starting in 1974. With a total of 182 race wins, 12 drivers' titles, and 8 constructor championships just in F1, only second to Ferrari, a winning race tradition might be an understatement. Then, in the 1980s, a South African man named Gordon Murray decided designing the world's best road car was something he wanted to do. Thinking about it since he was younger, finally in 1998, after the Italian Grand Prix, while waiting in the airport, he drew a sketch and showed it to legendary team principal and CEO Ron Dennis. He was convinced. He then commissioned Peter Stevens to help design the exterior and interior of the car. Gordon Murray knew what he wanted as far as specs and knew the performance would come along with that. He is still adamant that the top speed record was not a goal. He wanted as much F1 technology as he could inside of a road car, including the same carbon monocoque and body material from the McLaren Formula One cars of the time. He said that the benefit of having no restrictions, so to speak, allowed for other technologies as well. Active rear spoiler, active brake cooling ducts, and even a form of ground effect using a rear diffuser in partnership with two Kevlar fans. Originally being influenced by car companies such as Ferrari, Porsche, and Lamborghini, he wanted to eliminate the downsides of the current crop of supercars, which he felt included things such as pedal placement and unpredictability. It was while visiting Honda's research center with Ayrton Senna himself, because of Honda's affiliation with McLaren in F1 at the time, he took a drive in the Honda's NSX and knew that was the feel that he wanted with even more engine performance. Buying one of his own later on, he originally wanted Honda to produce the engine for the car, wanting a 4.5-liter V10 or V12 for the McLaren. But he could not convince Honda to produce the engine. Funny enough, Isuzu actually requested McLaren use their 3.5-liter V12 engine, but McLaren wanted a more race-proven company. Gordon Murray then approached BMW, who accepted the proposal. BMW's famous M division then produced a masterpiece of an engine designed by Paul Roche. The engine was a 6.1-liter V12 named the S70-2. It also had dual overhead cam featuring variable valve timing, one of the first supercars of the time to have the technology. One of the others, the Honda NSX. The engine produced 618 horsepower with 479 foot-pounds of torque in a very light car, so the performance was predictably outstanding. One issue the engine did have was heat. It needed to be insulated from the carbon fiber body for obvious reasons. This is where the famous gold foil in the engine bay came into the design. Despite being full of technologies and amenities such as air conditioning, power windows, defrost, and even a Kenwood 10-disc CD changer, all rarities in most supercars of the time, Gordon Murray wanted this to be a driver's car, so he refused to include things such as power steering and ABS, which he felt disconnected the driver from the car. He did not want turbochargers or superchargers of any kind, which he felt influenced the throttle control far too much, especially in the corners. Murray obsessed over weight and also the aerodynamics of the car, using McLaren F1 wind tunnel on around 100 occasions, stating the small front end of the car allows it to still compete or even beat modern supercars in drag coefficiency. Weight had no compromises. Every part, including even the aluminum flywheel, was made as small as possible. The metal plates on the interior were measured to 0.5 millimeter to save as much weight as they could. The seat and super light steering column was fit to each customer. If it was in the car, it had to be light. He was also positive from the beginning that the central driving position was key, with 2 seats on each side, another thing it had over other supercars. The car had suspension designed by Steve Randall that is described as comfortable but stiff enough to maintain performance, and a gearbox made by Weissman Transmissions that is a 6-speed manual. Originally, Gordon attempted to use carbon brakes as well, but the new technology had teething problems. So he then asked Brembo to produce a brake design which required the caliper to be made from one single piece of aluminum to increase stiffness and strength. Finally, on May 28, 1992, at the Sporting Club of Monaco, Murray revealed the XP1 prototype, which is virtually the same as the production model apart from the wing mirrors. Production began in 1992 and everyone loved it, described by multiple magazines as the best road car ever made. Murray had done it, a lifelong dream had been achieved. With only a total of 64 production versions of the original McLaren F1, it is one of the rarest supercars today, as they were all handmade and a lot of the materials could not be mass-produced at the time. Other versions of McLarens put the total at 106. That has been a little overview of the history of this legendary car. Now let's take